Deep within the heart of Mexico lies a hidden cave, Grutas de Tolantongo, a breathtaking natural wonder that lures adventurers with its beauty. But beneath its stunning waterfalls and turquoise pools lies a perilous force waiting to strike. One experienced caver, Alejandro Villagomez, entered this cave on what seemed like a routine journey. But little did he know he would face one of the most terrifying moments of his life. Trapped in a deadly plunge pool, with currents dragging him under, Alejandro's escape seemed impossible. How did he survive? Join us as we unravel this chilling tale of courage, determination, and the raw power of nature. Grutas de Tolantongo, located in the Mezquital Valley of Hidalgo, Mexico, is a stunning natural wonder that offers an unforgettable experience for nature lovers and adventure seekers. Nestled in a box canyon surrounded by towering cliffs and lush green landscapes, Tolantongo is a paradise of hot springs, caves, and turquoise rivers. Its name comes from the Nahuatl word Tonatonco, meaning home where it feels warm. However, over time, the name evolved to Tolantongo, especially after being popularized in 1975 by the magazine México Desconocido. This incredible destination is about 4 hours north of Mexico City, or 3 hours from Querétaro, making it an ideal getaway. The closest town is Ixmiquilpan, and the scenic mountain roads leading to the caves add to the adventure. Visitors can arrive by car or take buses from Mexico City to Ixmiquilpan, followed by local transport to the site. Tolantongo's main attractions include a natural cave, a narrow tunnel, a picturesque turquoise river, and man-made thermal pools carved into the mountainside. The cave is classified as a karstic formation, created as water seeped through porous limestone rock over centuries. Inside, warm water flows and forms pools with soothing mineral properties. The cave also features stalactites, stalagmites, and a beautiful waterfall that adds to its charm. Just outside the cave, visitors can enjoy rimstone pools where warm water rushes past, creating a relaxing experience. Above the main cave is the aptly named tunnel, a narrow passage filled with warm water flowing from the mountain walls. The tunnel offers a steam bath-like atmosphere and a unique sense of adventure. Visitors can swim in the pools and listen to the echoes of cascading water within the mountain. For those seeking a bit of a thrill, the area also offers activities like rappelling, though caution is necessary due to slippery surfaces. The Tolantongo River flows through the canyon, its vivid turquoise color caused by mineral deposits from the mountain. The river has been dammed at intervals to create natural thermal pools, perfect for soaking and enjoying the stunning views of the canyon. For those who prefer warmer waters, the cave and tunnel provide the hottest temperatures, while the river offers milder waters, ideal for swimming even on cooler days. One of the most Instagram-worthy spots is the terraced thermal pools built into the mountainside. These pools offer breathtaking views of the surrounding mountains and are perfect for relaxing. Visitors can also explore a suspension bridge, zip line, and do other activities for a more adventurous experience. Grutas de Tolantongo has a variety of amenities, including hotels, camping areas, restaurants, and shops. However, it is important to bring enough cash as credit cards are not accepted. Comfortable waterproof shoes and a waterproof flashlight are recommended for navigating the slippery rocks and dark areas within the cave and tunnel. Whether you're soaking in the mineral-rich waters, exploring the caves, or enjoying the panoramic mountain views, Grutas de Tolantongo is a magical destination that combines natural beauty with relaxation and adventure. Caving, also known as splunking, is an adventure unlike any other. It is a journey into the unknown, where darkness covers you and every step is a discovery. Alejandro Villagomez, a 23-year-old experienced caver from Mexico, was someone who lived for such adventures. Alejandro was not just any caver. He had spent years exploring underground rivers, caves, and caverns across Mexico. His passion for the hidden world beneath the earth was unmatched. Alejandro's love for caving began as a child when he first explored a small cave near his hometown. Fascinated by the mysterious world of tunnels, stalactites, and underground rivers, he devoted his free time to studying maps, training in diving techniques, and mastering the art of navigating through tight, dark spaces. By the time he turned 23, he was considered one of the most skilled cavers in his region. He had a reputation for being fearless, methodical, and deeply knowledgeable about the caves of Mexico. In October of 1982, Alejandro decided to explore the Grutas de Tolantongo, a stunning thermal resurgence cave located about 40 kilometers northeast of Ixmiquilpan in Hidalgo, Mexico. This cave was known for its heavy water flow, warm temperatures, and breathtaking beauty. However, its true extent was unknown, and very few had dared to venture deep into its watery depths. For Alejandro, the allure of discovering uncharted territory was irresistible. Alejandro prepared meticulously for his journey into Grutas de Tolantongo. He packed a waterproof flashlight, a sturdy helmet, and high-grip shoes. However, due to the warm temperatures inside the cave, he decided not to wear a wetsuit. He believed that the thermal waters would keep him comfortable, and the wetsuit would only weigh him down. Before entering the cave, Alejandro studied the flow of the water from outside. The steady stream pouring out of the cave was strong, with an estimated flow of 10 to 20 cubic feet per second, or CFS. Despite the heavy current, Alejandro was confident in his ability to navigate the challenges ahead. His plan was simple: enter the cave, explore its initial sections, and then return within a few hours. As Alejandro stepped into the Grutas de Tolantongo, the warm waters welcomed him like a soft hug. The light from his flashlight illuminated the rocky walls, showing shiny mineral deposits and flowing streams. The sound of rushing water filled the air, echoing through the cavern. About 40 meters into the cave, Alejandro encountered a small waterfall less than a meter high. The water tumbled down into a plunge pool below, creating a swirling current. To move forward, Alejandro needed to climb up this waterfall. Hugging the left-hand wall, he swam against the current, using handholds to pull himself closer. Reaching the base of the waterfall, Alejandro assessed the climb. It seemed manageable, and he began to pull himself up. Suddenly, disaster struck. The powerful flow of water from the falls overwhelmed him, sucking him into the plunge pool below. The currents at the base of the waterfall were far stronger than he had anticipated, swirling and pulling him back toward the falls. As Alejandro tried to swim away, the water's force was relentless. Each attempt to move forward was met with resistance, and the current dragged him back toward the base of the waterfall. To breathe, he had to spring up from the bottom of the plunge pool to the surface. On his first and second attempts, he managed to grab quick breaths before being sucked back under. On his third try, he wasn't so lucky. He came up right under the waterfall and breathed in a mouthful of water instead of air. Alejandro panicked when he realized how dangerous his situation was. The strong currents had trapped him, and his lungs burned because he desperately needed to breathe. Trapped and disoriented, Alejandro's mind raced. He thought of his family, his friends, and the passion for caving that had brought him here. Was this how it would all end? Alejandro used all his strength to fight against the powerful water. He kicked and struggled in the swirling currents, trying desperately to get away. He tried to grab the water with his arms, but the waterfall was too strong. It felt like the cave itself was trying to keep him there. His vision started to become blurry, and his chest burned as his lungs desperately needed air. He knew he was running out of time. Fear and desperation filled him, but he refused to give up. Alejandro pushed his body as hard as he could, using every bit of energy that he had left. In one final, desperate move, he managed to shift his position in the water. Using all his strength, he kicked hard and pushed himself away from the waterfall's deadly pull. And suddenly, he felt the water release him. His head burst through the surface, and he gasped for air, taking in a deep, life-saving breath. Shaking and very tired, Alejandro grabbed onto the rocks near the side of the pool. His hands were scratched, and his whole body was trembling from the effort and the excitement. He had almost drowned, but he was alive. Gathering what little strength he had left, Alejandro began the slow and painful climb out of the plunge pool. Every step toward the exit was a struggle. The rushing water that had once seemed inviting now felt menacing. Alejandro carefully navigated the slippery rocks, his flashlight guiding him through the darkness. His hands were scraped, his muscles ached, and his mind replayed the terrifying moments beneath the waterfall. Finally, after what seemed like hours, Alejandro came out from the cave. The warm sunlight hit his face and he collapsed onto the ground, overwhelmed by relief. He was alive, but the experience had shaken him to his core. Strong water currents are one of the biggest dangers that cavers face, and Alejandro Villagomez's close call with the deadly deep pool was almost unbelievable. Deep inside the Grutas de Tolantongo, surrounded by loud, rushing water and powerful currents, Alejandro survived because of his strong will and a bit of luck. Somehow, in the way the water was flowing, just enough water must have been going downstream, giving him just the chance that he needed to escape. But in such scary situations, making the right choice is often just luck. It's a strong reminder of how unpredictable nature can be, and how important it is to be as careful as possible when going into dangerous places like caves. Alejandro's harrowing experience shows how important safety measures are in caving. Even though he was an experienced caver, going into the cave alone that day was a big mistake. Caving by yourself makes things much more dangerous because there's no one to help you if something goes wrong. Also, he didn't realize how strong the water was, and he decided not to wear a wetsuit, probably because the cave was warm. This meant that he had no protection against the cold water and the strong current. Because he didn't have anything to help him float, or any equipment to hold on to, he was completely at the mercy of the rushing water. To prevent incidents like this, it is essential to prioritize safety above all else. Caving should always be done with a team of trusted companions. Having a group allows for mutual support and increases the chances of a successful rescue in the event of an emergency. Proper equipment such as wetsuits, helmets, flotation devices, and safety ropes should never be overlooked, no matter how familiar or skilled a caver might feel. Understanding the hydrologic dynamics of a cave, especially in areas with heavy water flow, is also vital. Waterfalls, plunge pools, and other natural traps can turn deadly in an instant. Cavers must assess the risks carefully and avoid venturing into hazardous areas without thorough preparation. Alejandro's story is a cautionary tale about the thin line between adventure and disaster. It reminds us that nature is unpredictable and unforgiving, and even the most experienced adventurers can fall victim to its power. By respecting the forces of nature and adhering to strict safety protocols, such tragedies can be avoided. Alejandro's narrow escape serves as both a warning and an inspiration, proof that survival often requires courage, determination, and most importantly, preparation. The tiny island of Guam in Micronesia is a popular tourist destination and the home of a United States naval base. But this remote spot hides a dark secret: drownings. Per capita, Guam sees 7 times as many drownings per year as the United States. Even when specifically compared with another island tourist destination, such as Hawaii, Guam's waters are still more than 2.5 times as lethal. Why? In this video, we'll explore Guam's dark recent history and hopefully shed some light on this terrifying phenomena. Guam is a U.S. territory in the northern Pacific Ocean. It is part of the Mariana Islands, which sit near Marianas Trench, the very deepest point in all the world's oceans. Guam's nearest mainland neighbors are Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, and Japan, all of which are well over 1,000 miles away. And even though Guam is the largest of all the Mariana Islands, it's still tiny. The island is only 210 square miles, about the same size as the city of Chicago. In fact, you can drive from the southern tip of Guam to the northern tip in less than an hour. Yet, to get to a nearby major city like Manila or Tokyo, you have to fly in a plane for 4 hours.
This makes Guam one of the more isolated locations on the planet, and one of the least ideal places to have an accident, let alone a string of them. Just a handful of years ago, Guam experienced one of its more gruesome 12-month periods on record. In 2017, more than a dozen people died, many of them under surprisingly mystifying circumstances. The long and grisly list of bodies shows just how distinctively deadly these waters can be. February 4th, Henry Santos. The trouble first began on February 4th, 2017. It was just after the start of the dry season on Guam, which is considered the best time for tourists to visit. However, that day, the small island got a shock that visitors and locals alike were not expecting. February 4th was a Saturday. All was going well until 1:53 p.m. that afternoon, when a 911 call came in reporting a distressed fisherman in the waters off the coast of Agat, a village on the island's western shore. It was 58-year-old Henry Santos. By the time rescue personnel arrived, Santos wasn't breathing and he had no pulse. Following an autopsy, Santos's death was ruled an accidental drowning. But authorities wouldn't have much time to ponder what might have gone wrong before they were summoned to the ocean again to extract another body. February 25th, Gaylord Takami. Just 3 weeks later, on the opposite side of the island, witnesses along the shore of Pago Bay reported seeing a fisherman stranded in the water holding a flashlight. It was nighttime around 10:30 p.m. when the calls started coming in. The man was 41-year-old Gaylord Takami. Takami had been out diving for fish with a friend. As the night had closed in, the temperature had dropped. Takami was cold and had decided to head back to shore for the evening. His friend was not far behind, but decided to do a quick final check for fish before heading in after Takami. The pair had reportedly been diving just 400 feet or so from the shore. But upon returning to land, Gaylord Takami was nowhere to be found. The Guam Fire Department eventually found Takami floating at a depth of roughly 15 feet. He was hastily transported to Guam Memorial Hospital, but sadly there was nothing they could do. The local pathologist determined that Gaylord Takami was the victim of an accidental drowning. But despite local officials surely praying this would be the last such accident for a while, their prayers were anything but answered. March 6th. Eric Shane Santiago. The following month, on March 6th, Guam's waters would claim its next victim. This time, it would be a young, healthy, highly skilled spear fisherman, leaving the whole community in shock and bewilderment. Eric Shane Santiago was regarded as a very skilled fisherman, and he had a reputation as a passionate outdoorsman in general. But on the night of March 6th, his family called 911 and told them Eric had failed to return after embarking on a solo fishing trip in Umatak Bay. This happened during Guam History and Chamorro Heritage Day on the island. This made for a dark juxtaposition. While the celebrations wound down, the search party ramped up. Around 9:30 p.m., rescue divers recovered the body of Eric Shane Santiago. 10 minutes later, a crowd was gathered on the shoreline. Residents watched in horror as a gurney carried Santiago's body into an ambulance. Wails and screams were heard, and residents were seen hugging and comforting each other. It was probably at this point that a wider sense of dread started to spread around the island. The ocean had already claimed 3 lives, and it was only 3 months into the year. Stranger still, the waters around the small island had now taken someone who very few would have expected to be a drowning victim, given his skill and physical fitness. Unbeknownst to anyone at the time, the year's carnage was just getting started. March 31st, Jeffrey Reyes. Within that same month, Jeffrey Reyes drowned while out catching lobsters with a friend. His friend was successfully rescued, but Reyes's body had to be recovered the following morning. He was found off the coast of Calvo Beach in the village of Talifofo. Reyes was another victim who was familiar with the area and an experienced fisherman. April 12th, Joey Tapazna. Less than 2 weeks later, 18-year-old Joey Tapazna was freediving with friends near Dadi Beach on the island's west coast. Suddenly, a frantic 911 call came into local authorities. Tapazna's friends had suddenly found him unconscious and unresponsive. Tapazna was rushed to Guam Naval Hospital, but it was too late. In addition to Tapasna's drowning, another unexpected death of a young person happened on the same island that same week. 16-year-old Jacob Gombar was found unconscious at Matapang Beach. Gombar was a member of the rowing team at John F. Kennedy High School in northwest Guam. Now, while his death was not a drowning, it's still quite mysterious given the context. Even more mysteriously, Gombar's death was unique in that, at first, the medical examiner wasn't even sure what caused it. It was eventually determined through tissue samples that Gombar suffered massive bleeding of the heart and that he also had pneumonia. But as you can imagine, this determination didn't do much to help friends and family wrap their minds around the fact that a 16-year-old student athlete had so abruptly died. April 29th, Brad Michael Arthur. A couple of weeks later, a 13-year-old named Brad Michael Arthur drowned at Waipao Beach in Tamuning. Initially, the Guam Fire Department thought he was 9 years old, but this was later corrected when his identity was confirmed. July 3rd, Thompson Puaz. 15-year-old Thompson Puaz, a student at Okoto High School, became the next victim in early July. But unusually, Puaz didn't drown in the ocean. His death came in the bowels of a cave. Puaz was exploring Marabo Cave near Mangalao with his older brother and some friends. The group was using ropes to navigate the inside of the cave. But when they arrived at a rocky ledge, they all noticed that Thompson was missing. Thompson Puaz was found by his brother at the bottom of the cave, submerged in the water. Now, I wasn't able to confirm this, but according to a newspaper article published from the island's capital of Hagatna at the time, there's a good chance that Puaz didn't know how to swim, or was a poor swimmer. Now, roughly halfway through the year, Guam, an island already prone to drowning accidents, was on pace to exceed its annual average of deaths. August through September, Shang Yun Wu, Myung Won Zhang, Godo Etchin. As the summer wound to a close, 3 more lives were lost to drowning in fairly rapid succession. 90-year-old Sheng Yun Wu drowned in the waters of Tumen Bay to the west. 61-year-old Godo Etchan drowned in the waters of Tagja Bay to the east, and a 5-year-old named Myung Won Zhang drowned in a swimming pool located at the Hilton Guam Resort and Spa. October through December, Zhong Li, S.K. Neth, Paul Jose. Before the year's end, an additional 3 lives would be claimed. In early October, in Tumen Bay, just behind the Lot Hotel, 57-year-old Jiong Li was pulled to shore by nearby beachgoers and pronounced dead due to accidental drowning. In November, another young fisherman drowned. S.K. Neth, 28, was recovered from the waters near Bear Rock in Narahan. Then, on Christmas Day, December 25, 2017, an active-duty airman named Paul Jose was pulled from the waters of Tanguisan Beach and pronounced dead due to accidental drowning. Paul was originally from San Jose, California, and he was stationed at the base in Guam. He was 23 years old at the time, and the last person to drown on the island that year. The above-average number of deaths in the year 2017, and the shocking and sometimes mysterious conditions in which many of them occurred, leaves only one simple question crying out to be answered. Why? What happened to all these people? All 14 of them died in separate incidents, and in many, if not most cases, authorities only arrived in time to collect the body. And although 2017 was an especially bad year, drownings in Guam happen at a high rate every year. So maybe a better question is, what makes drowning so much more likely in general? If we look at this 2017 as a whole, there are some interesting patterns. First, with the exception of 5-year-old Myung Won Jong, who drowned in a swimming pool, all of the victims were male. A significant number of them were also fishermen. Now, beyond that, the waters seem to have been fairly indiscriminate. Drowning victims in 2017 came in virtually all ages, from young children to the very elderly. Drownings happened in afternoons, evenings, and well after sunset. Population density? In exploring possible explanations, I was struck by the observation that, counterintuitively, Guam's small size might actually increase the likeliness of drowning. As mentioned earlier, Guam has a much higher drowning rate per capita than Hawaii, but Guam also has a much higher population density than Hawaii. So even though Guam has way less coastline than Hawaii, it has more people per mile of coastline. It wouldn't make sense if having more people per mile of coastline made the drowning rate higher. If you put more people in the same amount of water, more people will drown. The Jamaica problem. This seemed like a solid theory, until I started looking at other islands around the world. Jamaica, an island with less coastline than Hawaii, but more than twice as many people, is one of the least drowning-afflicted countries on Earth. This island nation has a capital city right along its southern coastline. Fishing and swimming are both popular activities here. Yet Jamaica sees less people drown per year full stop than Guam does, despite having over 17 times the population. If the amount of people versus the amount of coastline was the answer, then we should expect Jamaica's waters to be almost as lethal as Guam's, but they aren't even close. We should also expect places like Greece, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba to be similarly lethal, but they aren't either. The WHO's theory. So if population density isn't the explanation for all the drownings in Guam, then what is? A 2021 report by the World Health Organization stated that a whopping 2/3 of the world's drownings happened in the Asia-Pacific region where Guam is located. The report also stated that in the Western Pacific, lower middle-income countries have drowning rates close to 4 times higher than those of higher-income countries. Guam is part of Micronesia, a lower-income country. The Dominican Republic versus Haiti. Working off of this, I noticed something interesting about the Dominican Republic, its neighbor. As you probably already know, the Dominican Republic shares the island of Hispaniola with its neighbor country, Haiti. Both countries have roughly similar populations. Thanks to Haiti's horseshoe shape, both countries also turn out to have loosely similar amounts of coastline. Yet Haiti's annual drowning rate is almost 5 times higher than the Dominican Republic. Now, looking at a map, it seems clear this discrepancy cannot be the result of natural causes. It seems much more likely that it has something to do with the Dominican Republic being a middle-income country and Haiti being the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. According to the World Bank, Jamaica is an upper middle-income country. Virtually every other country with extremely low drowning rates is also higher income, whether they have coastlines or not. So, perhaps Guam's high drowning rate comes down to resources. Based on the World Health Organization's report, and based on the additional evidence I was able to find, that seems like the most likely explanation. There are all sorts of imaginable reasons why income might affect drowning rates. Safety laws, emergency services, and incentives for fishermen being just a few that come to mind. Still, it's strange and quite heartbreaking to see the reality as it affects individual people and their families. Over a dozen people drowned in horrific fashion on this small island in 2017 alone, and I don't know enough to say for sure what could have been different to prevent these tragedies. All I can say is that I hope this video helps to shed light on the problem and that conditions improve so that fewer people lose their lives.